I get asked a lot about doing the work, like what is doing the work? What does it mean to work on yourself? Like how do you work on yourself? What is that process like to enlightenment, to inner peace, to healing? What is that? What do you do to get there? It's a really good question. It's a good question because there has to be some kind of thing that you can do, right? And a lot of people will kind of go for meditation or yoga, those kind of practices. And funnily enough, those are probably the ones I'd least recommend. And not knocking yoga or meditation, I'm quite sure that a lot of people get a lot of benefit out of it. But at the same time, that's not the kind of thing that I would recommend. Just because, generally speaking, with meditation especially, and I guess yoga as well, those kind of practices, they become a daily practice in your life, and I guess the intention would be to center yourself and to gain that sense of center and inner peace and so on. But for me, I think that any kind of work that you do on yourself, I like to feel that the work you're doing should have a lasting benefit without the work having to be repeated, right? So instead of something that you do every day, which allows you to get centered, but you do something that centers you more forever. So it's you do something, some kind of a transformation occurs inside you, and from that moment on, you've evolved a step, you've graduated a particular life lesson, you've become better at something, and nothing can ever take that away from you. You'll always be better at that. You'll struggle less with that. I think that's important. That's really important for any kind of work you do on yourself, is that you're actually making progress. I see a lot of people who do all sorts of healing practices, even coming on retreats, and this is a recharge for them. They recharge themselves, so they let life overwhelm them, and then they come on a retreat, or they do some kind of healing practice or a getaway or whatever, or a holiday, and then they recharge themselves, and then they go back. The problem with that is that they don't go back with any better tools than they came with, and they don't necessarily approach the problems in their lives in a better way, and they don't necessarily suffer less harm, less long-term stress from the things in their lives. So, when someone says to me, what is doing the work? So what would that be? And how I like to see it is that if you were going to do work on your body, I made a similar video a long time ago. It didn't get a lot of views, and I wanted to kind of like just reframe it, because it's been one of the most important things for me. So if you were to take your body, right, and you were to look at what would doing the work on your body be, right? So you think, okay, like lifting luggage is heavy, and picking up the kids and putting them in the car is heavy, and climbing stairs is heavy, and all of these things, pushing a boat off the shore is heavy. So let's say, for instance, all these things are heavy and they're difficult in your life, and you want them to be easier, right? You want it to be easier to lift the luggage, and you just throw it into the car and do a pirouette like it's nothing for you, right? That would be good. That would be good. It would mean that every time that you were physically challenged in your life, every time you had to run for whatever reason, or jump, or climb some stairs or whatever, that you just do it with a hop, skip and a jump. It would improve your quality of life. And if you had to run for an airplane, you wouldn't be breathing and gasping and dying when you got there, right? So this would improve the quality of your life. And so this involves getting fitter and getting stronger. So how do you get fitter and how do you get stronger? Well, you place your body under stress, okay? So you introduce the stress that you are trying to get better at. So if you want to get stronger, you lift weights. You literally impose the suffering and struggle that you're struggling with, and you choose to do that voluntarily. And in so doing, your body adapts to that, and you master it. And you don't just stop there. You don't just say, okay, well, I'd like to be able to lift a bucket full of water, and once you've lifted the bucket full of water 100 times, and you think, okay, well, now I can lift a bucket of water, fairly comfortably, you don't stop there. You lift 2 buckets of water. So when you're training your muscles, you keep lifting bigger and bigger and bigger weights, and when you're running, you run further and faster and further and faster. Partly so that when you are asked to run really far or lift something really heavy, that you'll always be ready for that. And also, by lifting something way heavier than you might need to lift under ordinary circumstances, means that when you're asked to lift anything trivial, it's trivial. You literally can't even feel it, right? That would be an amazing benefit to you, an amazing quality of life improvement would be to be so much stronger and so much fitter, so that none of the physical demands that are made of you on a daily basis trouble you in any way whatsoever. You would just be at peace with your life in a physical sense, right? So that's the analogy. And it is exactly the same process when it comes to your emotional and spiritual development. If you want to make the things that you suffer from easier, you need to lift the weight of those things intentionally. And this is like a terrifying notion, right? So let's say you're not good at conflict. Let's say you shy away from conflict, you don't like yourself in conflict, you're scared of other people, you're scared of yourself, you're scared of what might happen, right? The only way for you to get better at it is to lift that weight 100 times. To put yourself into that position over and over again, and put yourself into that position in a more and more challenging way over and over again, until a regular conflict, a regular everyday 5-liter bucket of water is nothing for you. It's absolutely nothing for you. And that would be the quality of life improvement that you are seeking, right? You are seeking, how do I become more patient? You know, I'm a very impatient person. How do I become more patient? Choose to wait, or to force yourself into a situation where you have to be patient for way longer than you need to be. Way longer than you need to be. If you struggle with eating, discipline around eating, fast, deep into the sense of discomfort, far beyond what you would normally have to deal with in your daily cycle of hunger. Go way deeper than that. Run further than you need to run under normal circumstances. So these are all little examples of how you train yourself emotionally and physically to be more comfortable with your life, right? And so people often ask me, like, give me one example that I can do. And the example that I use every single time, and it's funny because it usually works, just about everybody responds to this one, is I say, I'll bet there's one conversation with someone in your life. I bet you can think of one conversation with somebody in your life that's quite significant, that you need to have, that you haven't had. A conversation that you've been putting off, or that you don't feel that you have the courage or strength to have that conversation. Go and have that conversation, right? And everyone's like, whoa, hang on a second here, I'd rather just meditate, right? Or I'd rather just do yoga, because that's all safe and in a PC, you know? No, that's not how you're gonna get fit. That is not how you're going to get fit. It's not how you're going to get stronger. If you are scared of having those kind of difficult conversations, you always will be. You always will be, and you will always struggle with that. Always. Until you practice that. So pick the one that you've been putting off. Pick the one that you know in your heart you should have, and go and have it. And I can promise you right now, as terrifying as it is, when you choose to do it, it's better. It's much better when you choose to do it than when the choice is made for you. It's a very empowering thing to say, I'm going to do that now. It's very, very self-affirming. And I'll talk more about that in a different video, but it's very self-affirming to choose to do something hard intentionally, right? It's going for that run, not being forced into it, but choosing it, choosing to do something difficult. So you choose that, and I can promise you, going through that experience will be very eye-opening for you, because it's not going to be as bad as you thought it was going to be. It's going to make you feel stronger, more comfortable. It's going to build your resilience, and it's going to build your self-esteem. So it's really important. Try that one. And if you can't think of one of those, then I suggest whatever else is the most uncomfortable, the thing that you can think of doing, choose to do the most uncomfortable thing you can think of doing, because it will make you stronger and it will make those things less uncomfortable for you forever. And that's worth it. It's worth it.